don't skip this article. This article holds much significance and can be used and linked with GS3 and Sociology optional. Hi, so today's topic for editorial discussion is an avoidable controversy of sample survey. So what this article deals with is that it talks about the issues that our sample surveys face. We have stumbled upon a lot of surveys such as the National Family Health Survey, the Periodic Labor Force Survey, Annual Survey of Industries, and the Census. It is also a survey, right? So yes, there are a lot of other surveys also. And this particular article talks about some issues that these survey methods or these research methods use. So we will see this article in particular we used to skip. We used to skip in the sense people will not give much attention to this particular article, citing that it's too factual and all these things. But this has immense potential. The significance of this article, it can be directly linked with GS3 and also Sociology optional. So we will see what a survey is, what are its advantages, disadvantages, and how it can be improved, and how to link it with GS3 and Sociology. So yes, now what is a survey? So in this modern economy, modern data-driven economy, the thing is data has become an important commodity. Data has become an important commodity, and most of the things are built upon data. For example, we take apps, it is built upon some sort of data collected from various users, and on a more higher level, even policies are also based on data. So this data has to be collected. The modern day, these apps and all, they elicit data from various sources, even without the consent of the particular individual also. Data is being elicited by such players. But when it comes to policy makings, data has to be precise, data has to be collected from a legal point of view. So for this concept, we have this tool or mechanism or method. So that is the survey. So there are a lot of surveys, as we have seen, there are a lot of surveys, National Family Health Survey and all these things are there. So what these do is that it collects data regarding particular social indicators and social and economic indicators. National Family Health Survey talks about the health perspective. Periodic labor force survey talks about the economic side or the employment side, and all these things give us valuable data or inputs about the state of the economy and the social indicators of the society. So yes, this is what a survey is. It is a method of research used to elicit data from a sample. So what is a sample? Oh, the sample, right? So what is a sample? Here also it is written as sample survey. Now what is a sample? The thing is, sample, the population is very large. The target population for which the survey is to be conducted is very large. Now we will take India. India is a very big country. India today it is the world's most populated country. So we cannot go around knocking everyone's door asking for data. So we select a particular group, a representative group called as the sample. It will not include all the people, but it will, at most, it will try to include all the representatives of every people. So yes, it has to be representative. So representation is important when it comes to samples, and this sample, it can be generalized to the larger population also. So that is what sampling is, and the method that we use, the design that we use to select this sample is called the sample design. There are a lot of sample designs known as the probabilistic sample, non-probabilistic samples, and under those heads there are other types of sample selection such as the simple random sampling, convenient sampling, snowball sampling, and cluster and stratified sampling, and all these types of samplings are available for us to choose a sample. Now what is the sample frame? Sample frame is that the frame of reference that is used to select a particular sample. For example, for studying the population related dimensions of Indian society or Indian economy, what we used to do is that we take the census 2011 census as the sample frame, and from there only we used to select our sample. So that is what the sample frame is. So now coming back to survey. So what are the advantages? So this survey is conducted with this sample. They'll be asked certain questions, and that data will be elicited and used for various purposes. So yes, now what is the advantages of this survey method? Survey is a research method, and what are its advantages? First, it gives us quantitative data. Quantitative data in the sense, it is about statistics, it is about numbers, right? Survey, especially closed-ended surveys, closed-ended questionnaire based surveys, it gives us quantitative data. There is no qualitative data there. Qualitative data means there is no scope for meanings of the individuals or feelings of individuals. These are outright statistical numbers that are being used. So yes, quantitative data is one advantage of surveys. Next is low cost and easy administration. A survey, conducting a survey, yes, it can cost less, it can cost more. It depends on the sample size, it depends on the data, it depends on the goal it seeks to achieve. So yes, most of these surveys in comparison with other data collection methods are very economical and are very cost efficient. So yes, it is low cost, it can be easily administered. Easily administered in the sense, we used to file these online surveys, right? YouTube open, there is a survey there, and we used to have this Google Docs surveys will come, and there is also the Survey Monkey surveys will come, and all these things, it can be easily administered. It can be administered through the mobile phone, it can be administered through the internet, it can be administered via call, it can be given to people directly. Observer can go ask survey questions to a person directly, and all these things can happen. It can be easily administered from the comfort of our homes. So that is one other advantage of survey methods. And versatile, these are very versatile also. Versatile in the sense, yes, we have already seen that there are a lot of applications, there are a lot of approaches through which surveys can be given. It can be easily administered. Versatile approach of administration is the other advantage of surveys in general. And objective in the sense, it is unbiased. There is no place for feelings there. There is no place for the observer's feelings to be inculcated in the design. So it is very objective. It is not subjective. It is very objective. It is not biased. It is an unbiased form of data can be elicited through surveys. Another thing is generalization. So we use the samples as the frame. We use samples, and from this sample we can generalize it to the entire population. From a group of 10 to 20 people, for example, hypothetical example, from a group of 10 to 20 people, we can further increase it to a number of tens and thousands can be inculcated, can be generalized. So that is another advantage of surveys in general. And next, moving on to the disadvantages. Now, what are the issues that arise when it comes to surveys? Not only surveys, but other research also, but surveys, we are just focusing on surveys now, right? So poor data quality. Poor data quality in the sense, it can affect there are various other factors that can affect the data. There is other factors, that is what we are going to see. It can be affected on a large scale. It can affect the data, and it can bring issues in policy implementation. It can bring issues in the goal it sought to achieve, and all these things can happen. So poor data quality is a disadvantage or a demerit of sample surveys. And the next thing is sampling error. So sampling errors, we all know what a sample is, right? So sampling error, when it comes to sampling error, yes, the sample might not be representative. We all saw that representation in the sample is very important, otherwise the data will be biased, data will be one-sided, data will be narrow, and all these things will happen. So sampling errors has to be minimized to the maximum. So representative sample is needed. Representative sample is needed, and then only the quality of the data will improve. Another thing is selection of frame of reference also. We saw this example that census 2011 is selected as a frame of reference, but today in 2023 census 2011 is outdated now, right? So it cannot be used. So this will also lead to sampling errors, and such sampling errors will reduce the reliability of the survey. It will reduce the reliability of the data collected. Reliability in the sense, in sociological terms, what we used to say is that it is the ability to replicate the data. It is the ability to replicate the research irrespective of the irrespective of the observer or time. Whenever you take the same questions, the same set of people, same answers must be elicited. Whichever observer, not only the particular observer who started the process, but even if another observer takes the same set of questions to the same sample group, the same data must be elicited. So this must happen. So this is what reliability is. So when this sampling error occurs, reliability of the data is reduced, and placing our policies upon such unreliable data will sure lead to various downfalls or unwanted expenses in the name of policy implementation. So yes, response rate bias. Response rate bias, response rate and lethargic both can be interlinked. So response rate bias is that a lot of people, they are hesitant to give very good responses. So we all know that these Google Doc surveys and all used to come in, a lot of people used to send us. But how many of us will seriously do that or seriously answer those questions? Seriously, we won't answer those questions seriously. Right? What I will do is that I used to select option A for the first question, option B for the second, C for the third, D for the fourth, and it will go and the process will repeat. So this is what will happen. So this can hamper the effectiveness of the data. So response rate bias, there is very poor response rate and lethargic answering of questions or lack of seriousness among the sample can also lead to a poor data quality. Oh yes, and illiterate masses. Surveys, they are based on questionnaires. A question will be sent to them, they will have to answer such questions. So it cannot be, survey as a research methodology cannot be used on illiterate masses. It cannot be used on illiterate or uneducated people. So that is again a disadvantage there when it comes to survey as a research methodology. So now we have seen a lot of disadvantages of the survey method. Now what are the measures that can be cited to improve the survey as a research methodology for sociology? Yes. Well, first thing is that using a scientific research designs. You know, there are a lot of research designs, exploratory research, experimental research design, descriptive research design, and there are a lot of research designs. But using a scientific, well calculated and curated research design for that particular research will further enhance the quality of data collection and will reduce the disadvantages of the survey method. So that is one thing has to be noted, scientific research design adoption. And the second is minimizing sampling errors. A researcher, what he must do is that he must make sure that the the representation of the sample is well enough, it is good. The sampling errors, we saw a lot of sampling errors, sampling frame errors and all these things. This has to be reduced. When this is reduced, data quality will increase. There is an inverse relation there. Sampling errors will reduce, data quality will increase. So yes, this has to be done. This can be suggested as a measure. And the next is limited and exhaustive ones. So yes, we all saw that a large number of questions, around some 100 questions and all, no one will take it seriously. Even a very serious student who starts the serious person who starts the survey on a very serious note, by the end of the 30th or 25th question, he or she will become lethargic. So the questions of the survey must be very limited and exhaustive. Not only limited, it also has to be exhaustive and seek to collect the data that you or the researcher aspired for. So it must be limited and exhaustive in nature. And sample frame upgradation. Sample frame upgradation in the sense, I think is, yes, we saw this 2011 census, right? Recent times, in 10 years, another census has to have been happening now, but it has not happened yet. So this sample frame can be adjusted to other forms also. For example, in urban areas, we can use this urban frame surveys as sample frames, and all these things can be used. Rural areas, there are other indicators, other surveys that can be used to reflect today's scenario, not only relying on census. So upgradation or updation of the sample frame is needed for good quality surveys and data collection. And the last measure that can be cited is that mitigation of non-sampling errors. Non-sampling errors in the sense, it is especially the response rate bias that has to be reduced. Response rate bias has to be reduced. This can be done by catching the eye of the responder, catching the eye of the sample with limited and very exhaustive questions. So this can happen by using such methods to mitigate the non-sampling errors. So these are the measures that can be suggested. These are the measures that can be suggested. So now how can this article be linked with GS and sociology? So when it comes to GS, we have this paper, right? GS3, this economy side of the civil services mains, and there is this small topic called as policy implementation. Policy implementation, yes. Policy, what is policy? Policy is something that is used to implement a particular scheme, right? So this particular scheme or this particular policy is based on evidence. What we do is that we call it as evidence based decision making. Where does this evidence come from? This comes from all these types of surveys, NFHS, ASI, census, PLFS, and all these types of surveys. It gives us the required evidence. But if there are issues in these surveys, the common issues that are being faced by Indian surveys are response rate bias, sampling errors, poor data quality due to over and underestimation of population. All these things, these are all generalistic, but these three are the major issues faced by Indian surveys, especially these surveys, and there are also other 11 surveys like this, and these surveys face these issues. So yes, this can be linked. The thing is, there are a lot of, for example, we'll take this poverty alleviation program. There are a lot of poverty alleviation program since in the independence. There have been a lot of poverty alleviation program, but such programs, their success and failure, it is again debatable. Some say it is a success, some say it is a failure. But what decides success or failure? It is again the data. It is again the evidence that is provided through such surveys. But if these surveys are not good, if the data collected from these surveys are of poor quality or not reliable, then issues arise. And then we keep on updating our policies, thinking that the policy is wrong, the policy is not effective, it is not effectively being implemented. We used to update all our policies and try and pour in a lot of cash to alleviate poverty. But that is not the case here. That might be a case that, but when it comes to sample surveys and all, the evidence that is provided might be wrong. And again, these are just allegations. This might be wrong. So yes, so that is the importance of data. This can also be used as a point in writing GS3 answers. And when it comes to sociology, there is this separate topic called as research methods. There are various types of research methods and data collection. There is questionnaires, schedules, surveys, all these things are there. And particularly when it comes to, and in sociology, every year one question is asked from this research methodologies. What they use is that, what they tell us that particular type of research methodology, be the survey, be the focus group method, everything, and ask what are the merits or demerits, or what are the measures that can be suggested to reform or improve such improve the shortcomings of that particular method, and all these questions can be asked. So every time one compulsory questions comes from this topic, and in other sides also, other subsections also it can come. So around 10 to 20-25 marks, there is a probability for 10 to 25 marks to come from this particular topic called as research methodology in sociology. So this is how you link a particular editorial article to both optional, in this case sociology, and with general studies, and in this case GS3. Thank you.